I've stayed in a lot of cheap motels. You kind of have to when you're doing contract work across state lines. But I'd never seen handprints inside a mirror before. It was late March, 2024. I'd been driving through Central Oregon for about 6 hours, heading to a job site outside Bend. The original plan was to push through and get there by midnight, but around 9 p.m., the fatigue hit me hard. I pulled off Highway 97 near a town called Chemult. Population maybe 300 on a good day. There was a single motel with a flickering vacancy sign. The kind of place that still uses actual keys instead of card locks. The guy at the front desk didn't look up when I came in. Just slid a registration card across the counter and mumbled something about checkout being at 11. I paid cash. He gave me a key attached to a diamond-shaped plastic tag. Room 14. The room smelled like cigarettes and pine cleaner. One queen bed with a floral comforter that had probably been there since the 90s. A CRT television on a bolted-down dresser. And a bathroom with a mirror that took up most of the wall above the sink. I dropped my duffel on the bed and went to brush my teeth. That's when I saw them. First, I thought it was just smudges. But when I leaned in, I realized they were handprints. 4 of them, pressed against the glass from the inside. The fingers were splayed wide, like someone had been pushing outward, trying to get out. I touched the mirror. It was cold, solid. Obviously solid, it's a mirror. But those prints were definitely on the reverse side, behind the glass. I could see the whorls in the fingerprints when the light hit it right. I told myself it was some kind of manufacturing defect. Or maybe condensation had settled weird during production. Except the prints were too clear, too deliberate, and there were only 4 of them, all clustered near the center of the mirror, about chest height. I washed my face and tried to ignore it. But when I came out of the bathroom, I kept thinking about it. Who leaves handprints inside a mirror? How would that even happen? I checked my phone. No service. Not unusual out here, but it made the room feel smaller, more isolated. I turned on the TV. Static on most channels. I found one grainy station playing an old rerun of The Twilight Zone. I left it on for the noise. Around 11:30, I turned off the lights and got into bed. I didn't sleep well. I kept waking up every hour or so, feeling like something was off. The room was too quiet. Even the TV had cut to static at some point. I could hear the wind outside, but nothing else. No cars. No footsteps in the hallway. Just that low, empty hum that comes with total silence. Around 2 a.m., I woke up again. The bathroom light was on. I know I turned it off. I'm neurotic about that kind of thing, always have been. But now it was on, and the door was halfway open. Just enough that I could see part of the mirror from the bed. I sat up. The light flickered once. Then again. I got out of bed and walked toward the bathroom. My chest felt tight. The air in the room had changed. It was colder now. I could see my breath. I pushed the door open all the way. The handprints were still there. But now there were more of them. At least a dozen. All over the mirror. Some small, like a child's. Others larger, with elongated fingers that stretched too far down the glass. My throat went dry. I stepped closer. One of the prints, near the top right corner, was still wet. No, not wet. Condensation. Like something warm had just pressed against it. I reached out. My hand hovered an inch from the glass. And then I heard it. A soft tapping sound. Coming from the other side of the mirror. Tap, tap, tap. Slow. Rhythmic. Like fingernails drumming against glass. I pulled my hand back. The tapping stopped. I stood there, barely breathing, staring at my own reflection. My face looked pale, hollow, and behind me in the mirror, I could see the darkened room, the bed, the door, but something was wrong. In the reflection, the door to the hallway was open. I spun around. The door was closed, locked, chains still latched. I turned back to the mirror. In the reflection, it was wide open. And standing just outside the frame in the hallway was a figure, tall, thin, motionless. Couldn't see a face, just a shape, dark against the dim light of the hallway. I didn't move, couldn't move. The figure tilted its head, and then it stepped inside, not into the room, into the mirror. I watched as it moved closer, step by step, inside the reflection. It walked right up to the glass, right up to where I was standing, and then it pressed its hands against the inside of the mirror. I saw the palms flatten, saw the fingers spread wide, saw the condensation bloom around them. We were face to face, separated by a sheet of glass that shouldn't exist. I stumbled backward, hit the doorframe. My heart was slamming so hard I thought I'd pass out. The figure didn't blink, didn't breathe. It just stood there, watching me, and then its mouth opened, not like a person, like something unhinging, wider and wider until I could see rows of teeth that didn't belong. I ran, grabbed my duffel, didn't bother with shoes. I ripped the chain off the door and bolted into the hallway. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The carpet smelled like mildew. I didn't stop until I was outside, standing barefoot in the gravel parking lot. I got in my truck, locked the doors, turned the key. Nothing. The engine clicked, died, clicked again. I tried 3 more times. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely grip the wheel. And then I looked up at the motel. Every window was dark, except one. Room 14. The light was on, and standing in the window, staring out at me, was the figure. I don't know how long I sat there. Maybe 5 minutes, maybe 30. Time felt broken. Eventually, a semi-truck pulled into the lot. The driver got out, stretched, and walked toward the front office. I rolled down my window and called out to him, asked if he had jumper cables. He did. My truck started on the first try after that. I didn't stick around to say thanks. I drove until sunrise, didn't stop until I hit Bend. I checked into a Holiday Inn and slept with every light on. The next day, I called the motel, told them I'd left something in the room and wanted to go back for it. The front desk guy said there was no room 14. I insisted, said I had the key. He said they only had 12 rooms. Told me I must be thinking of a different place. I still have the key. It's in my glove box. Diamond-shaped tag. Number 14. I've never been back to Chemult. And I don't look at mirrors the same way anymore. Sometimes, late at night, I think about those handprints. About how many there were by the end. How some of them were small. And I wonder how long they'd been trying to get out. We'd been in the house for 3 weeks when someone started knocking at 2 a.m. It wasn't aggressive. That's what made it worse. Just steady, patient knocking, like whoever was out there had all the time in the world. My girlfriend Sarah grabbed my arm in the dark. Neither of us moved. Then we heard it. A woman's voice, calm and sweet. "Michael? Michael, please open the door. I know you're in there. My name isn't Michael. And we don't know anyone named Michael. We bought the place in late September of last year. A small 2-bedroom rental on the edge of Corvallis, Oregon. It was cheap, older, but the landlord said the previous tenants had left in a hurry. We didn't ask why. The neighborhood was quiet, trees everywhere. Our nearest neighbor was maybe 200 yards down the road. Sarah worked from home. I did overnight stocking at a grocery store. Normal life, nothing strange. Until that night, the knocking continued. 5 slow taps, then silence, then 5 more. Sarah whispered, "Should we check the window?" I shook my head. Something about the voice felt wrong. Too calm, too certain, like she wasn't asking. She was waiting. I grabbed my phone. No signal. That wasn't unusual out here, but the timing felt deliberate. The knocking stopped. We sat there in the dark, barely breathing. Then footsteps, slow, dragging slightly, moving from the front door toward the side of the house. I got up and moved to the hallway. Sarah followed. The footsteps stopped under our bedroom window. Then the voice again. "Michael, why won't you talk to me?" I brought your keys. You left them last time. Last time. Last time. I looked at Sarah. Her face was pale. We'd never met anyone here. Never had visitors. The footsteps started again, circling the house. I could hear them on the gravel driveway. Slow, methodical, like someone checking every window, every door. I thought about calling the police, but my phone still had no signal. Sarah's didn't either. The power was on. The clock on the stove glowed green in the kitchen, but neither of our phones worked. The footsteps reached the back door. 3 soft knocks. Michael, I'm getting cold out here. I crept into the kitchen and stood near the back door. I didn't look through the window. I don't know why. Maybe I was afraid of what I'd see. Or worse, what would see me. The knocking came again. Softer this time. Almost sad. Then I heard something else. A faint scratching sound. Not on the door. On the frame. Like fingernails tracing the edges. Testing it. Sarah grabbed my shoulder. We need to leave. I nodded. But to leave, we'd have to go through the front door. And I didn't know where she was now. The scratching stopped. Silence. Then footsteps again. Faster this time. Moving back toward the front. I heard the porch boards creak. Then the doorknob rattled. Slowly. Like someone was checking if it was locked. It was locked. I checked it before bed. The rattling stopped. Then the voice. Right against the door. I can wait, Michael. I'm very patient. We didn't sleep. We sat in the living room with every light on, waiting for sunrise. Around 4 a.m., I finally checked the front window. Nothing. No car. No person. Just the empty driveway and the trees swaying in the wind. When the sun came up, I opened the door. There was nothing on the porch. No footprints. No sign anyone had been there. Except for one thing. A single key. Brass. Old-looking. Sitting in the center of the welcome mat. I didn't touch it. Sarah took a photo of it. Then we left for the day. We stayed at a friend's place and didn't come back until evening. When we returned, the key was gone. I asked our landlord if anyone named Michael had lived there before us. He paused on the phone. Then he said, "Yeah, Michael Torrance. He rented it for 2 years. Left in July. Didn't say why. Just packed up and disappeared." I asked if he'd left a forwarding address. The landlord said no. Then he asked why I wanted to know. I told him it didn't matter. That was 6 weeks ago. We moved out 2 days later. Broke the lease early. The landlord didn't argue. Before we left, I looked up Michael Torrance online. Found one obituary. Local guy. Died in March 5 months before we moved in. Cause of death. Undisclosed. But there was a photo. And in the comments section, someone had written, "He never should have left her waiting." I don't know what that means. I don't want to know. We're in a new place now across town. Different neighborhood. Better locks. But 2 nights ago, Sarah woke me up. She said she heard knocking. I told her it was a dream. She didn't say anything. Just stared at the door. This morning, I found something on our new porch. A brass key. I don't stay in Airbnbs anymore. Not after what I found in that apartment in Portland. It was supposed to be a simple work trip. 3 nights, maybe 4 if the client meetings ran long. I'd booked a studio in the Pearl District through Airbnb, clean photos, 5-star reviews, host with over 200 properties. The kind of listing that feels almost too professional, like a small hotel trying to look homey. I checked in around 9 p.m. on a Tuesday in March 2024. The keypad code worked on the first try. That should have been my first sign something was off. Things that go too smoothly usually have a reason. The place looked exactly like the photos. Minimalist. Gray couch, white walls, one of those open concept layouts where the bed is just separated from the kitchen by a bookshelf. I dropped my bag by the door and did what I always do. I walked the perimeter, checked the locks, looked under the bed. It's a habit I picked up after reading too many true crime stories. But everything seemed fine. The windows locked. The bathroom was empty. No one hiding in the closet. I ordered Thai food and settled in for the night. Around 11 p.m., I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone when I noticed the smoke detector. It was one of those modern ones, circular, about the size of a drink coaster, mounted on the ceiling directly above the foot of the bed. But there was something about it that didn't sit right. The center looked different, like the plastic was slightly darker than the rest, or maybe reflective. I stared at it for a minute, then convinced myself I was being paranoid. But I couldn't stop looking at it. I got up and dragged the desk chair over to stand on. Up close, I could see it wasn't just a different shade. There was a tiny lens behind the plastic, so small you'd never notice it from the ground. My stomach dropped. I stood there on that chair for what felt like 5 minutes, just staring at it, trying to convince myself it was some kind of sensor or LED. But I knew what it was. I'd seen enough Reddit threads about hidden cameras to recognize one. I got down and checked the other smoke detector in the kitchenette. Same thing. A lens, barely visible, angled down toward the sink and the counter. Then I checked the one in the bathroom. That one was above the shower. All three had cameras inside them. My hands started shaking, not from fear yet, from anger, because I realized someone had been watching me since the moment I walked in. I changed clothes in the bedroom, walked around in a towel after my shower, ate dinner in my underwear, and someone somewhere had seen all of it. I grabbed my phone and opened the Airbnb app. My first instinct was to message the host, but something stopped me. If the host had installed the cameras, messaging them would just tip them off. I'd lose any chance of proving what I'd found. Instead, I opened my camera and took photos of each detector. Then I did something I'm still not sure was smart or stupid. I unscrewed the cover of the bedroom detector. Inside was a small camera module, about the size of a quarter, wired directly into the smoke detector's power supply. It had a tiny SD card slot and a lens that looked expensive. Professional. This wasn't some cheap spy gadget from Amazon. Someone had paid good money to hide these. That's when I heard it. A faint click from somewhere inside the apartment. Not mechanical. More like a door latch disengaging. I froze. The sound came from the direction of the front door. I wasn't alone anymore. I stayed absolutely still, holding the smoke detector cover in one hand, my phone in the other. The apartment was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Then I heard it again. A soft scraping sound, like someone testing the handle. Slow, deliberate, the kind of movement you make when you're trying not to be heard. I stepped off the chair as quietly as I could and moved toward the kitchenette. There was a knife block on the counter. I grabbed the biggest one. My heart was slamming so hard I could hear it in my ears. The scraping stopped. Then came the sound of the keypad outside. For beeps. Pause. For more beeps. Whoever was out there was trying different codes. I didn't wait to see if they'd guess right. I moved to the bathroom and locked the door. It was flimsy, hollow core, the kind you could kick through. But it was something. I opened the window. Second floor. The drop was maybe 12 feet onto a patch of wet grass. Not great, but survivable. The front door opened. I heard it clearly. The soft whoosh of the seal breaking. Then footsteps. Slow. Methodical. Not trying to be quiet anymore. I climbed through the window and dropped. Hit the grass hard and rolled. Pain shot through my ankle, but I didn't stop. I ran to the street, got in my rental car, and drove. I didn't look back. Didn't check the rear view. I just drove until I found a 24-hour diner 3 miles away, parked under the brightest light I could find, and called the police. They met me at the diner, took my statement, went to the apartment with me an hour later. The front door was locked. The cameras were gone. All 3 smoke detectors had been replaced with normal ones. I could tell because the plastic wasn't the same shade of white. The officer said there was no evidence of a break-in. No signs anyone had been inside. They suggested maybe I'd been mistaken about the cameras. Stress. Long day. Unfamiliar place. But I had the photos. I showed them. The detective looked at them for a long time, then asked for the host's information. I never heard back about what they found. The listing was deleted within 48 hours. The host's entire account, all 200 properties, vanished from Airbnb. I spent the rest of that trip in a Marriott, paid out of pocket. I couldn't sleep for 3 days, kept thinking about who had been watching, who had tried to get in, and why they'd known exactly when to come back and erase the evidence. 2 weeks later, I got a message on LinkedIn. No profile picture, no name, just a blank account that sent me a single line. "You should have kept the detector." I deleted the message, blocked the account, but sometimes, late at night, I still think about it, about what they meant, about what was on those SD cards, and about how many other apartments in that host's portfolio had the same setup. I don't stay in Airbnbs anymore. I don't care how good the reviews are, because now I know, sometimes the person watching isn't a stranger. They're the one who gave you the keys.